You step into a Roman tavern, hand over a copper coin for a polite smile, and the attendant hands you a clay jug of fermented urine. The ammonia stings your nostrils, but the promise of a blinding white grin makes you swish the bitter liquid without hesitation. It feels like a joke. It feels like a trick designed to make you gag. But look closely at the teeth in that tavern. They are not rotting. They are not missing. They are remarkably intact, and they stay that way longer than we expect. You think this is just gross ancient hygiene. You think it is a desperate hack by poor people who had no better option. You are wrong. This was not a lack of choice. It was a sophisticated dental system built on empirical science we are only now beginning to understand. By the time I finish this story, you will see your own bathroom mirror differently. You will see that our modern obsession with minty freshness might have blinded us to what actually works. The Romans did not just tolerate urine. They engineered it into a potent bleaching agent, and they knew exactly why it worked better than many herbs or roots before it. Let's rewind. Forget the movies for a second. Forget the scenes where everyone has black, rotting teeth. That is a myth. Look at the skeletons dug up in Pompeii. Look at the remains found in London under the modern streets. Many of these people lived into their 50s and 60s. Their teeth were surprisingly well preserved compared to expectations. Their gums held firm longer than we assume. How? The answer lies in a substance most of us would run from: urine. But not just any urine. The Romans had standards. They had supply chains. They had experts. In the year 77 AD, a man named Pliny the Elder wrote a massive encyclopedia. He did not write it as a joke. He wrote it as a manual. He noted that aged urine was superior for dental care. This is the first shock. We assume fresh is best. The Romans knew fresh was weak. They needed age. Why? Because time does the heavy lifting. Fresh urine contains urea. Urea is relatively inert, but let it sit in a clay jar for a month or two, and something changes. Bacteria go to work. They break down the urea. They turn it into ammonia. Ammonia is a strong base. It is a bleaching agent. It kills bacteria. It dissolves stains. This was not accidental. This was empirical science before the word chemistries existed. The Romans understood that if you wanted a white smile, you needed alkali, and urine was one of the most accessible sources of alkali on Earth. But here is where it gets even stranger. Not all urine was equal. The Romans were picky. They treated urine like wine. They looked for terroir. Soil composition changed the chemical profile of what people peed out. Pliny wrote that urine from Lusitania, modern Portugal, was the best. He also highly praised urine from Gaul, modern France. Why? Because the soil there made the urine richer in ammonia. It was a natural premium blend. You could buy it by the amphora. It was expensive. It was traded across the empire. This was not a poverty project. This was an elite habit. Pliny himself discussed using urine to whiten teeth and dye hair. The poet Petronius mentioned it in his satires. If you were rich enough to afford white teeth, you used this. White teeth signaled health. They signaled wealth. You could not afford the luxury of a yellow smile. So how did they get the product? It was an industry. There were men whose job was to collect urine. They went to public latrines. They went to tanneries. Tanners used urine to cure leather, removing hair and softening hides. The Romans collected the urine from these sources. Imagine the supply chain. You have collectors moving through the streets with jars. They bring the fermented liquid to the bathhouses. They bring it to the wealthy homes. It was a regulated commodity. It was as normal as bread or oil. Now, picture yourself in that Roman bathroom. You are not just swishing. You are scrubbing. The Romans did not rely on liquid alone. They made pastes. They mixed crushed oyster shells with ground pumice. They added bone powder. It was gritty. It was abrasive. It scraped plaque off effectively. But abrasion hurts gums. Abrasion causes bleeding. If you scrub too hard, you get an infection. That is where the urine comes back in. The ammonia in the liquid acted as an antiseptic. It killed the bacteria introduced by the scraping. It prevented infection. It soothed the tissue. The urine was the solvent and the shield. It cleaned the deep stains that brushing could not reach. It whitened the enamel by breaking down organic pigments. It protected the gums from the damage of the paste. Archaeologists found tools in Pompeii to prove this. They found metal probes. They found small pots with residue inside. The residue tested positive for calcium and organic compounds consistent with aged urine. This was a regimen. A scrub, a rinse, a protect. It was comprehensive care. You might be thinking right now, this sounds dangerous. Ammonia is corrosive. It burns skin. If I drink bleach, I die. Why didn't this hurt their teeth? Good question. You are forming the smart objection. The answer is concentration and frequency. They did not use industrial strength ammonia. They used fermented urine. It was strong, but it was manageable. And they used it regularly. More importantly, we have to look at what survived. We have skeletons with dental calculus. Tartar builds up when you do not clean well. Roman skeletons show less severe decay than we expected. Their teeth were often worn down from grit. But they were not universally rotten. The ammonia likely helped reduce the bacterial load, preventing some cavities. The myth says all Romans had terrible teeth. The evidence says their hygiene was actually quite effective. They prevented decay more effectively than previously assumed, using a chemical agent against bacteria. They just happened to call it urine. Think about your own routine. You brush with minty paste. It tastes good. It smells sweet. It feels clean. But does it kill the deep-seated bacteria? Does it bleach stains over years? Maybe not as well as ammonia. The Romans prioritized function over comfort. They accepted the sting for the result. They built a system that worked. It was gross to us because we lost the context. We lost the supply chain. We lost the understanding of why the burn meant safety. We prioritized pleasant flavor over raw chemical power. We traded the bleach for the bubble. And now, many people need expensive dentists to fix damage from diet, genetics, and neglected care. The Romans knew that a smile is not just about looks, it is about structure. They used urine to keep that structure intact. They understood that clean does not mean fresh smelling. Clean means sterile. Clean means strong. So when you think of the Roman mouthwash, do not just think of the smell. Think of the science. Think of the fermentation. Think of the soil in Portugal and France. Think of the collectors moving through the streets with their jars. Think of the paste scrubbing away plaque while the ammonia killed the germs. It was a sophisticated dental care system. It was optimized by trial and error over centuries. It was used by emperors and slaves alike. It was effective enough to preserve teeth for decades. You are holding that clay jug again. The liquid is warm. It smells like feet and chemistry. You take the sip. It burns. But you know why it burns. You know it is working. You know it is stripping the stains and killing the bugs. And in an hour, you will smile in the mirror, and the teeth will be white. And they will stay that way. The Romans did not have fluoride. They had ammonia, and it reduced decay. The question is not whether we should go back to drinking pee. The question is, what else we gave up for the sake of a pleasant taste? The answer might surprise you. It might make you look at your own bathroom cabinet with new eyes. You are no longer just brushing your teeth. You are wondering if you are actually cleaning them.